Do you love breakdowns? Do you need stats? Do you crave insight? Download the AllStar app. UFC, Bellator, PFL 1 Championship, and more. Ad-free, fully customizable. Download the best app in the business. Link in descriptions.
Anderson Silva, man, he finally enters the UFC Hall of Fame. He was popped as well, even though I hate to say that, but he was popped as well for, I believe, dick pills or something, right? 7-Eleven dick pills. You know, he was trying to get his freak on. I don't know for sure. You know what I mean? Who knows from that era? But going back to the venue change, didn't they do that for John Jones, right? It was supposed to be in Vegas, and yeah, you're right. All right. Anyways, Anderson Silva, UFC Hall of Fame, finally. What do you think? James, how far does your MMA go back? Like you watching MMA like live and knowing the sport?
So I'm 28, right? So I first started getting involved in combat sports through boxing. You know, in the UK, I grew up in London, right? So in the UK, boxing is huge. You know, MMA is not that big. Now it's, super popular now. But when I was growing up, it wasn't that popular, right? It's boxing. So my first love of combat sports was boxing. We used to do boxing as kids in our school. You know, when we used to go for like PE, physical education, we used to play boxing. But I didn't start getting into MMA till after boxing. I started learning about, I initially watched MMA with my dad. We watched a promotion called Cage Rage, which I think Anderson Silva actually fought in that promotion, which is quite crazy. If you remember his knockout over Tony Strickland, which was the upwards elbow with the yellow cage, I'm pretty sure that was in Cage Rage. Or it might have been in UCMMA or something, but I'm pretty sure that was in Cage Rage, right? Old school promotion. I used to watch that with my dad, but I was super young. I just wanted to hang with my dad, and he would just have it on the TV. I don't think he was even too interested. So that was like my first, it was like two bald men, because you're talking about 20 years ago, these fighters, they wasn't really high level. They were just like bald guys, tattoos, that just wanted to fight each other. It wasn't really high level type of promotion. But it was on TV and I used to watch it. But I didn't actually really started getting into the MMA until quite late, around 2015, 2014. So I remember it was the era where Stipe Miocic first made his run. He knocked out Andrei Arlovsky. I think that was in like 2016, 2015, when McGregor fought Chad Mendes. I remember that was like the first big fight. My friend told me, hey, there's this Irish guy called Conor McGregor. Like, you'll probably like him because he's quite like, he's similar to us. He's rowdy, he's young, he's from Ireland, we're from England. He makes jokes that we do, like that type of English banter. So I went and watched him, and that's when I really fell in love with the sport. So it wasn't around the time, that was way past Anderson Silva's prime and stuff. Anderson was still fighting, of course. I remember staying up to watch him versus Michael Bisping. I love that fight, of course, great fight. But obviously, I know a lot about Anderson Silva, right? I know the history behind him. I've gone back and watched a lot of his fights. He's had a fight. He used to fight in England, so I know him quite well in terms of, for that reason, right? I know a lot of things about him fighting behind the scenes. I remember when he fought Lee Murray. We used to look up to Lee Murray when we was a bit younger, probably for the wrong reasons, but he fought Lee Murray. That was a great fight, 3-round fight. So I love Anderson Silva. Yeah, he probably was juicing. Everybody was juicing. Everyone's juicing in virtually every sport. It's a fact of the world. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I don't think it should happen because there's certain people out there that don't. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. He's an amazing fighter, one of the best fighters of all time. His striking style is like etched into history. So many fighters these days come up saying, Anderson Silva got me into MMA. I mean, if you just think about how many men and women even across the world literally step foot into an MMA gym because of Anderson Silva, it must be hundreds of thousands. I mean, in Brazil alone, it's going to be tens of thousands. Imagine all across the world. So, his legacy on the sport goes well, or legacy on the world goes well beyond MMA, because he's made men, women make positive decisions, like going into an MMA gym, working on their health. These things, a lot of times we just look at the fight and we look at brutal knockouts and elbows and people getting out. And we actually forget that, stepping into an MMA gym, becoming more self-conscious about your health and sport in general is actually a massive positive for the world, you know. So without going all emotional and deep into it, Anderson Silva is a legend. He's impacted the entire world, and I'm very happy that, you know, his inevitable induction into the Hall of Fame happened yesterday.
You make a great point about the impact, because I feel like he was probably one of the first UFC fighters to have that kind of impact, not in popularity, but just in like fighters or people just entering martial arts. And Connor as well, you know, of course, Connor's just exploded, right? He just, like, the impact is, you can't compare it to like what Anderson Silva. Connor's much bigger, you know, but Anderson Silva, he had the kind of like that same impact. You know, Ronda Rousey was like right between them. But yeah, Anderson Silva, if you watch him, he's probably one of the most exciting fighters to watch, and he was the champion the whole time, which is unheard of. Right? We'll probably never see that. Like, see the type of performances a champion will come out, because now it's just so high level, right? It's just everybody's good at everything. J-Spec, what do you think of them putting him in the pioneer wing, though? Like, what? Pioneer? Is he a pioneer? Like,
No, he
like
was.
Royce Gracie a pioneer?
Yeah, dude. First off, wrong category. Right move. Like, good job on the Hall of Fame thing. I think he was like a auto. If you do have an automatic walk-in, shoe-in person, it's gotta be Anderson Silva. It's not debatable whether he should be there or not. Uh, can we also say just the UFC Hall of Fame is like a shit show and poorly organized and just like kind of just stupidly
Clearly.
ran? Yeah, thank you.
Clearly.
But besides that, he well deserved. The man totally deserves it. Pioneer era, wrong. I don't know what the different names of them are called, but I would call it the golden era. To me, he's like the stamp of the beginning of the golden era, past the pioneer era. Not the same as Hoist, but equally important in my opinion. I remember when he was coming up and shocking the world, and then took over. Casual fans were thinking Anderson was his last name. They're like, "Oh, that Anderson guy is fighting." I've heard that so much it hurt my soul. But then everybody came to learn what his real proper name is actually. So, with all that being said, man, Anderson Silva deserved and well done to be in the UFC Hall of Fame. I'm surprised it took this long. I thought the moment he dropped the gloves, they should have just. Did they even have a jacket? They should just put the Hall of Fame jacket on him. If I don't even know that's a thing for them. But the point is, I'm happy for him. He did inspire, currently and still inspiring people in the positive way to do things. And let's be honest, like, he even made stupid Steven Seagal like somewhat legitimate, right? Like, you got to be magical to pull that shit off. And the Spider Silver was magical. Good for him.
Yeah, there's always the good and the bad, right? And one of the bad things is that Jake Paul has a win over a UFC Hall of Famer. That's a terrible thing.